Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Insights from a Headhunter. Today, we are going to talk about overcoming analysis paralysis in job search. And today, we have a guest, Dorothy Dalton, with us. And I have known Dorothy for over a decade. We are colleagues, we are friends, we have so many interests in common, and she's one of the three persons who has been three times on my LinkedIn show. So I'm very happy to have you back. But before we start talking about analysis paralysis, for people who don't know you, tell them who you are and what you do.
Hi, everyone. And Tiina, thank you for having me back. It's a pleasure to be here. I call myself, I'm an HR expert. I've worked in executive search, training, coaching. I'm a cognitive career coach. I also am an Ikigai coach. And I focus on supporting organizations to build inclusive workplaces and individuals to reach their potential. And I've coached thousands and thousands of people in my career.
Yeah, so what better subject to discuss is it's really when you don't know what to do in job search. Let's talk about the career transition and what are the main reasons?
I think there are probably three. The first one is involuntary. That is, you're laid off, you're downsized, you're merged, something bad happens. And that's usually accompanied by, could be a trauma, anxiety, fear, depression, a whole range of emotions. The second one is voluntary. That can be a mix of both. You could be buoyed by optimism and, looking forward to the future, or it can be about needing to change for different reasons that aren't always positive. And the final one, which comes about as often as Halley's Comet, is someone actually sits down and says, actually, Dorothy, my contract's up. This is my plan. I want to change next year. And that happens very rarely. But so it's the involuntary and voluntary that are the two main ones.
Yeah, and I think that the situations are different because in one situation you kind of have more time when you are currently still employed, but the other things when you get laid off and or there are downsizing, those things happen kind of overnight.
They can do. And there are two types of analysis paralysis that I found in my career. The one is people just freeze. So it's basic human survival. They just freeze. They don't know what to do. Sometimes they get depression and they do nothing. And the second one is they don't know what to do and they do everything. And they do what we call spray and pray. In the business, we call it spray and pray. So they're the type of candidate who says, I sent off 200 applications yesterday and I've heard nothing. But in actual fact, the ways of overcoming that apply to both. And they both come at the very early part of the situation. So more or less, once you know what you're going to do or what's happened, then you sit down and make a plan. And I've got a little formula that I can share if you would like me to.
Yes, please.
So basically, I call that you've had your news and you're distressed or you're all of these things, shocked, distressed, worried, anxious, all of these things. And the first thing to do is to step back and go through what I call an anchoring process. And this is quite hard work because most people don't do it. And a lot of people try to skip it. And I'm sure Tiina will vouch for this. And these are the ones who come unstuck later. But if you do your inner work, then you are set up for the rest of the process. So it goes something like ritual, routine, and repetition. And there are three phases. And if you follow these three phases, you will be in a good place to calmly sit back, reflect, and work your way through what you need to do.
I think what you mentioned, those 3 R's, it's very simple things, and those really keep us grounded, because when something like this happens, it's very chaotic, and your whole life situation changes when you're not going to the office anymore. You don't have your colleagues. It's so important to have your routine.
Well, first, I think even
Yeah,
before then, what you have to do is you have to lean into, I mean, most people are grieving in some way
yeah,
or they're anxious. So you just have to accept that because you can't change it. So you have to do what I call brain laundry, and you have to sort out, the dark from the light. So the dark thoughts from the light thoughts. You have to do your quick cycle, which is all the things you need to do immediately, and then you have to set time for the deeper and inner reflection work. And all this is about understanding your goals, your values, and vision. And if you're clear on that, it is really helpful to move forward, particularly if you know what your strengths are, your personal development needs, and your transferable skills.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's so important not to get in the middle of conversation with the other professional people, if you're in the brain laundry modus still. This is something to be shared with your friends, family, career coach, but not with a potential new hiring manager.
I mean, certainly not a hiring manager, and sometimes even friends and family, because friends and family mean well.
Yeah.
But sometimes they can either be too kind, they're worried about you. I would choose somebody quite neutral. If you have a mentor, find a mentor. Someone who is there will give you constructive and neutral feedback. And then I think if the inactivity persists, where you feel depressed, where you can't move, there are two options. You might be clinically depressed, and I've seen that happen, in which case you might need to see a psychologist or a doctor, medical doctor, or you might think about seeing a career coach.
Yeah. So we don't have to do everything alone.
You don't have to do, and I think one of the things, and I mentioned before the call that I'm an Ikigai coach, and there's a great little book by a guy called Ken Moggy called The Little Book of Ikigai, and there are 5 pillars of Ikigai, and it's really common sense, and it's tied into the 3 R's, and it's about starting small. Okay, so you see people saying you've got to get up at 4 o'clock and stand on your head meditating, and if you don't do that, you're an abject failure. Just do what you can do, right? And if you can only do an hour a day, only do an hour a day, and then build on that. You have to let go of the dark thoughts. Said that before. The other thing that really, really helps is you celebrate your wins. So I always suggest keeping a gratitude diary. And there's a neuroscience behind gratitude. It stimulates, dopamine and serotonin. So it's really good for you. And it doesn't have to be gratitude for something big. Hey, I got a job. It could be gratitude for, I had a great cup of coffee, or I had a lovely lunch with my partner, or I went for a walk with one of my kids. It can be or I saw a wonderful sunset. It can be something really small. So appreciate the small things and value the small things.
Yeah. And it's more easy said than done if you're in the middle of the dark thoughts, but then really what helps against them is really appreciating what you have and putting focus on positive things and looking at the future.
And that's where the routine comes in. So if you set up a routine where you do the same things every day at a certain time, whatever works for you. Once again, you see some people exhorting people to get up at the crack of dawn. If you're a night owl, go through it. Go respect your own biorhythms. Okay, you do you. That's really important. And just keep repeating. So it's the I've forgotten the word, the ritual, the routine, and the repetition. And then once you've found what works for you, repeat it. Let go of the stuff that doesn't work. Don't do it. Try something new. And it doesn't mean that the plan becomes the goal. The goal is the end result. The plan is just the mean, because I know that people say, got to do this, this is my plan. But if the plan is not working, then you have to change it.
Yeah, it's all about the process and appreciating the small wins on the way.
Exactly.
We have also spoken about career strategy, and it differs from gender to gender. You have done research about it.
So career, what did you say?
Career strategy.
Oh, career strategy. Yeah, in fact, Tina's very kindly going to put a poll in the chat. In 2014, 3+ did some research, and only 5% of women had a career strategy. We did the same poll in 2020, and that had gone up to 50%, compared to 85% of men. So there's a really great line that if you don't know where you're going, any direction will get you there. So once you've done your inner work, then the important thing is to create a strategy around where you want to go. So, oh, that's the poll. Great. Thank you. Then you have to decide, which type of organizations do you want to go to, which geographic area do you want to be in, what sort of sector, what job titles, and check out the organizations, do your research. And one of the great things about going back to your values is that when you know what you stand for, you know what you stand against. And that really helps you with boundaries, and it helps you make better informed decisions about getting sucked into things that might not be a right fit.
Yeah. So if you have time, take your phone, scan the QR code, and you can vote. It's really interesting to see how things are evolving, and encouraging really even women to have a strategy, because then you at least get there where you want, instead of relying on where the organizations, they used to have a career plan for us. It's not the case anymore.
So, I mean, this year is the 25th anniversary of Tom Peters' quote, "You're the CEO of a brand called you." And that is a gender difference. If you just allow things to happen by chance, then you're taken by surprise. If you have a plan, have a career strategy, you might be networking continuously, you might be checking the market, you might be aware of trends of what's going on in your sector, then you're much more prepared than if you expect someone to take care of you, because the only person that can take care of you is you. Right, Tiina?
It is so right. And the sooner we learn it, the better. So let's check the comments. We have people joining us. We have Marjolein from the Netherlands, looking forward to learning from this session a lot. And I will be meeting Marjolein next year in the UK on a LinkedIn conference. So very much looking forward to meeting her in person. And so is Kevin. He will be one of the speakers. Hi, Kevin, and thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And also Gillian Whitney joining us from Las Vegas today. Woohoo!
Yeah.
and thank you for the help with the QR code.
Yes, that was super. Thank you very much.
And we will also see next spring in the UK. Christoph is saying thank you for the advice. We also have Phyllis. I love brain laundry. Thanks, Dorothy. I also noted it down because it's a saying that you don't wash your dirty laundry in public. So this is the same with the dark thoughts, and like we all have thoughts, and let's focus on the brighter ones, and have less of those dark, or catch ourselves when the dark ones come in the middle of the job search.
And I mean, there is a practical application of that, because obviously in an interview, you might have had a terrible experience with a toxic boss or colleague, or the way you were handled in your old organization. So in rather than slagging them off, so your dark thoughts in the interview, you just say that you're looking forward to an organization that values and contributions or recognizes people or whatever it is. But you phrase that more in what you're going towards rather than what you've left behind.
It really helps you focus and move forward. Julian, loving these tips, and they are applicable for everyone. Yes.
Yeah, they are.
And we have a LinkedIn user. Gratitude for this great session about overcoming analysis paralysis today. This is really how to practice it. Make a list or write it up in your journal, and then you realize how many good things are happening in your life, instead of the dark thoughts.
And I think that once you sit down, I think at some point you're going to share the career strategy cheat sheet, that when you've done the basics, because the analysis paralysis can come in later, because people sometimes make great progress. So you've done your work, you've sent off applications, you're getting responses, and then you get ghosted. I was talking to someone only today before this call. Everything had gone great. They'd been called to the CEO. They'd had 3 interviews, and then nothing, nada, since the middle of August. And so the tendency then is to do whatever you tend to do when you're in crisis, either become action mad. That's my coping mechanism. I deal with crisis with action, or you freeze. So I think it's the time just to go back into this ritual mode, count your blessings, express gratitude, celebrate yourself, let go your dark thoughts. And you might have to do this periodically through the process.
Yeah. And especially like it's still kind of a special time of the year. Everyone is coming back from holidays, people who have kids at school. So things have been slower, but still people are being hired. And so when you don't get any answers during the summertime, it's a very specific time of the year.
Yeah, and there is a September surge. I can see it. The number of clients that have contacted me in the past 10 days to say they've got jobs has been fantastic. The other thing that people need to remember is that when you're in uncertain economies, one of the first thing that happens is they lay off their talent acquisition teams, or they lay off recruiters. And there are masses and masses of recruiters on the market, especially in the tech sector. And this means that the poor souls who are left are the ones doing all the work. And sometimes they're just overloaded. I was talking to one recruiter today who had 40 recs that they were doing themselves. I mean, that is a massive workload.
And that also explains when people talk about ghosting, it's not possible to call back everyone if you have to place 40 positions alone. It's just humanly not possible. Even if you would be doing that 24/7, it's just impossible.
You would hope organizations like that would have some automation with ATS, that they would have an automatic rejection. But there are still recruiters who don't use it properly, don't know how to use it. And there are still organizations that don't invest in the correct software. So it's a mix of a whole range of things.
Yeah.
But don't take it personally. It usually isn't about you. It's usually about things that you can't control. And that is a source of frustration. So that's why you have to focus on the things that you can control. And that thing is you.
Yes. And that's really, I think, one of the best lessons. Worry about the things that you can control. We also have Marilis Garcia joining us from Paris. We have a LinkedIn user who says, "Good to see you again, Dorothy." But
Hi, anonymous LinkedIn user.
it's in your profile. You can put it as visible to third party. So it's just in your preferences where you can change that.
Okay.
So
Well, pop your name in the chat, whoever you are, if I've seen you before.
We have Mikael as well. Balance is key. Applying for every job out there versus only applying for jobs you think you're exactly qualified for.
I'll just add something to that. I would always allow a bit of a stretch. So I think if you tick most of the boxes, clearly you're not going to apply for an engineering job if you're not an engineer. But I think particularly in jobs that there's a high number of soft skills and you might be ticking or not ticking or missing a few of the boxes, I would have a go anyway. There is a massive global skill set shortage. And the thing to do then is to emphasize your teachability. And so share stories or success stories where you've learned quickly, you've had results, that you're flexible, you're adaptable, all of those things. So don't just apply when you have 100%, slightly under, but then don't apply when you've only got 20%, because that's not great either.
Yes, and also internal applications when you're applying to all the vacancies in the company, it also doesn't it doesn't show your career strategy. It's like you said, spray and pray. You should really know what you want. Otherwise, it gives a confusing impression of where you actually want to go.
Yes, and that's about doing your inner work. It's about knowing your focus, knowing what your goals are, your values, your vision, all of those things, and it helps you to be laser focused. Because one of the most important things that or the pressures that people have is time. Most people don't have time. And I was talking to someone who literally spent 8 hours applying for one job. I mean, that's a massive commitment. So you can't apply for 200 of those. You've just got to really narrow it down and make sure that you fit the bill and, do a smaller number, but do them well. Where it is a problem, I think, whereas LinkedIn asks for easy apply. And then you've got, once again, I spoke to someone who was competing for a job where they had 2,400 applications via LinkedIn easy apply. So that is difficult.
Yes, and there I think it's a good question as well. If you don't have the qualifications and you apply for all the jobs and you don't get any reply, I think the first thing to check is, am I qualified? Because that makes a difference as well.
I've got one funny story where I was doing a search in China for a German company, and I said that they needed to have, fluency in Cantonese. And I was literally getting applications from dim sum cooks because all they saw was Cantonese. And so short order cooks, caterers, I mean, anybody, Chinese restaurants, all of these. So you've got to really read the posting carefully.
Yeah. And we have Daniela here. That's right. It's very easy to get tired. It's a marathon, but you definitely keep running to get the medal. Yeah.
Yeah, take breaks. I think one of the things is that you have to take care of yourself. So however you take care of yourself, because you're in it for the long haul. So whether or not people talk about scented candles and baths and all the rest of it. I mean, if that's your thing, do that. But it might be, going out with some friends to dinner. It might be going for a walk, whatever it is that makes you feel relaxed. But when you're doing the routine and the repetition piece, make sure you schedule time for yourself. Really important, because you need to rejuvenate.
Yeah. And I think what helps as well is do it from Monday to Friday. At least take Saturday and Sunday off. If just that you don't burn out the candle so quickly, because
I would even say just do what works for you, because some people may not be able to do all their hours Monday to Friday. They might need to spill over, but do what works for you, but make sure that you take the time. And I agree with having at least one full day away from your computer and your phone.
Yeah. We have a question from Marilis. What's your opinion on candidates who are overqualified and when they're rejected automatically?
That's tricky. It would depend. How would you know that you're disqualified because you're overqualified if you've got an automatic rejection? I think you could maybe, just thinking, you could maybe, quite often it's around years of experience.
Yeah.
So I definitely would not put I've got 25 years of experience or 10 years of experience. I would take the number out. But, you know, people can add up, they can calculate. So I think it's about saying something somewhere in your narrative that you have the skills and are willing to do this job. What do you think, Tiina, about changing dates? I mean, even that's a bit tricky, isn't it?
I think it's also having a conversation with the hiring manager if they are open to. There is always this ideal candidate, but if we are thinking about somebody who is more senior but is willing to do the hands-on work, for example, as well as the strategy and their attitude and how they would fit in the team, it's really about the conversations and not assuming just because of your seniority that you only expect VP jobs, for example, and the salary as well.
And I think that if you can get that far, I mean, if you're rejected automatically in the early stages, I would put something in your narrative that even though you've held senior roles, is that you're in a different place in your career. You know, that you've had this high level career, and now you have different priorities, and maybe just include that and hope they read it.
Yeah. There is, you shared a really helpful 7-step career strategy cheat sheet. I will put the QR code here. Let me just take the banner out. So you can scan it with your phone, and you will get directly to the website of 3Plus, and you can download it. So and there are a lot of good materials on that page, and Dorothy always is sharing very interesting tips, career tips. And having conversations on LinkedIn. So if you're not already following her, follow her. And if you mention that you saw this LinkedIn Live, you can also send a connection request with a personalized message.
Yeah, just connect with me anyway. I actually prefer people to connect. Sometimes the following doesn't always work. So yeah, please connect. Mention that that you were here. I'd be delighted to network with you.
Yeah. So I will put it also in the comments, the QR code, so you can grab the slide. I will also show it. So this is how it looks like, the 7-step career strategy cheat sheet. It's really, really helpful to do the inner work with this one.
Yeah, that's good basics, and then you just work on the different sections in between. And if you follow that, you'll find yourself in a reasonably good place.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, reach out to Dorothy or me, and let's continue the conversation. So thank you very much for your time, Dorothy.
Thank you, Tiina. It's been a pleasure. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to attend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.